What's up, yo? Welcome to Your One Life. I'm your host, Kim Young Kim, and I'm super glad to have you as a listener today. If you're new here, here's what this podcast is all about. This podcast is about teaching you from the greatest minds in the world, assisting you in all aspects of your life, and helping you get your crush's attention by setting their house on fire. Now, if they jump into your arms from the second floor, is that considered a first date? That's something that you'll have to figure out with them. All right, so today's episode is a throwback and a half. I interviewed Darryl James, aka Close Kicks, and also the bassist for the Strumbellas back in summer of 2021 on my first podcast, Young Legends. Now, the good news is the Strumbellas are on tour now, and they're making a stop in Atlanta on Tuesday, February 24th at the Loft. And I've decided to rerun this episode to help promote their show in Atlanta and all the rest of the shows in North America. And the ticket link will be in the show notes. Also, what I want to do is I want to show you the evolution of this podcast from my previous one, because looking at someone's growth is always a good thing. Okay, so without further ado, here's my interview with Darryl James. What's up, yo? Welcome to the Young Legends podcast, where we teach you the cheat codes to the game of life. I'm your host, Caption, aka Caption Red. I hope you're doing great wherever you are. And I'm super excited to bring you today's episode, which is my interview with musician Darryl James. Darryl James is the bass guitarist for the Strumbellas, a world-famous band with 500 million streams, 2 Juno Awards, an iHeart Music Award, and various television appearances, including Jimmy Kimmel Live, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and Conan. Recently, he has released his solo project, Close Kicks, where he's writing the lyrics and music for various tracks, including his first 2 singles, You Made It Home and The House We Built. He's collaborated with some of the music industry's most critically acclaimed artists, and he's just getting started. Darryl, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. I am so super excited about having you. How's your day going, man?
Well, thank you for having me. My day is great so far. It's a beautiful summer day. I couldn't be, just perfect day. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. And, I've been a big fan of, your music with the Strumbellas, and now you're, doing solo projects, which I'm jamming out to for the past week and a half or so with Close Kicks. And so, I always like to start my interview with a fun, engaging, cool story. And I'm sure you have plenty of them, being a rock star and all. So what story would you like to share with me today?
The story I'd like to share is about our first, in the band, in the Strumbellas, our first time on late night TV. We played Jimmy Kimmel. And obviously, you get the email, the indication you're going, the excitement's through the roof. You can't wait for the day. We fly to LA. We had some other press stuff going on. And this is kind of amongst when our song Spirits was taking off on US radio. Mm-hmm. It kind of in amongst the time also we went to the Grammys, played some pre-Grammy parties. We didn't actually go to the Grammys specifically, but we played some of the pre-Grammy parties. And so, the excitement's up. We go to Jimmy Kimmel, and you got to arrive early. It's kind of the way the day is. Like, your whole day is on Jimmy Kimmel. You play a couple songs, but, you basically play for about 10 minutes of time, but you're there for, 8 hours waiting and, getting ready. So, there's a lot of anxiety that sort of builds up throughout the day, and you're excited. It's our first one, and reviewing the songs and make sure you don't make a mistake. So, there we go. We wait all day, and we're on stage, and the crowd's there, and they're like, hey, we're going live. And Jimmy Kimmel jumps on, the screen, and he's like, hey, this is the Strumbell. Well, with their hit song Spirits, this is the Strumbrellas.
Oh, no.
right
No.
before we were to play, and we
Oh.
all of us just kind of like, we just kind of had no, like, we all, like, I think our faces melted on the spot of like, oh my God, like he said our name wrong, like, and then we had to play right after, like it was the intro, and we played, but we did an okay job, but we were definitely like rattled, on that
Right.
song, the songs going on, and but we had to play through it. And I think the point of the story there is that at any moment, even in some of the biggest moments you can be presented with, little things can change the route or the path that you thought was going to happen. You still have to adapt. And
Yeah.
that was one, like in our biggest moment of our career thus far. And then having your name said wrong was like a little bit hard to jump into your song right away. But we did, and we managed through. So I hope that's a good intro.
No, that's a fantastic story. And yeah, I mean, with all that anticipation and the nerves, that's the last thing you want to happen, right? Is like, oh no, we're gonna be the Strumbellas for everyone now. No.
Fortunately, they did correct it. Jimmy
Okay.
redid the take, so it didn't go live. It is a pre-taping
Right,
scenario,
right,
so
right.
we were able to fix it. But and he was apologetic. But in all reality, the Strumbellas has been a very difficult name from the start in the band because it does seem like people don't know how to spell it right, and it
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
marquees on live shows we're playing to posters. It's either the Stumbellas, the
Oh
Strumbellinis,
gosh.
the Strumbrellas. It really is a word that people have trouble with. But so it's kind of follows around our careers. So it actually wasn't too abnormal for Jimmy to do it because it was quite common before that too.
Right, right, right. And speaking of going out and touring and being out there, I have a story for you that this is like one of my favorite stories to tell, to be honest with you. I met y'all, not all of y'all, but I met a couple of your bandmates at a car rental place in LA, believe it or not. And yeah, y'all were standing behind me at the car rental place. And I saw y'all and I was just like, oh, this is cool. Like, they look like musicians. So I turned around and, I started a conversation. I was speaking with Simon and John, Simon Ward and John Hembre. Is that
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay. And, started up a conversation. And at the time, I think y'all were just really starting to take off. So I didn't know who y'all were. But they were both really nice, answering my questions. I just started, just talking about life and whatnot. And yeah, afterwards, I went and looked y'all up and I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are awesome, first off. And they were just super cool. And so, anyways, I love telling that story because, y'all are, this huge band and very down to earth. And that was just a really fun thing for me to experience. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's funny because people will say that to us, like but we're in a band that we hit the road playing to two people for 7 years before we saw success. So
Hmm.
we really do value that grassroots connection, and that is kind of where this band started. And we really did see, like, anyone you meet, you never know where an opportunity can sort of develop from. So never close the door to those opportunities because they can always lead to something. And here we are today. The band, you supported us, and here I am talking to you through all that interaction. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Very cool. And as I did my research on y'all and your, I guess, 7-8 year journey before you really took off, you have your own journey, which I was I was like, what? Like you started playing bass when you were 30? Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. I was not involved in music as a child. Like, I obviously listened to it actively, and my mom was a big listener. So, I always loved the Beatles and, the oldies. Always engaged throughout my life, had a hip hop era. But I didn't pick up a guitar until 19, 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of started to learn some campfire songs and covers. And then it got fun kind of just jamming with friends and trying to solo or something. And that's kind of where I was friends with Simon's brother, Todd. He's my age. I'm a few years older than Simon. And Simon moved. That was my connection to Simon. Simon moved to the city. He started coming over for dinner. We started jamming. And when he wanted to form the band and put the ad out to Craigslist, it was like, oh, I'd love to be part of this. I'd love to be part of a band. Not really thinking it would go anywhere. And I initially started playing ukulele in the band. And then there was no bass player, and I was like, well, I'm sure I can figure it out. Like, I have the work ethic to do it, and that's it. And then they put me in place, and away we went. So that is the story. I was 30 years old. The Strumbellas, my first band at 30, and first time playing bass. And so it really proves, if you put your mind to something and work hard, anything's possible. I did not expect at this stage of my life to be a full-time musician and artist.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like one of the most inspiring things I've heard in a very long time. So I keep hearing the same advice from musicians regarding making music, which is only do it if you can't not do it. Do you agree with that? Or like, what is your take on that? Because that seems to be a running conversation.
Sorry, only do it if you can't not do it?
Yeah, like you can't turn it off. Only pursue music full time if you can't turn your desire to play, make, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, in music, and it can relate to other industries that I've been in and worked in, because obviously, being 30 in the band, my first band, I had a life before the Strumbellas and before music. And you have, like, being passionate about something, you have to give it 110%. You have to fully pursue it in all means, and that is the way that you find success. You don't really find it by just kind of like, sort of putting your toes a little bit in the water and then and not jumping right in and just sort of testing it. You really do have to jump in, and in some of those early stages is some of the hardest days being an artist, because you're not making money, so you kind of have to have another job or another income in addition to music consuming you, and doing everything you can to get it to the next level. But you really do. Yeah, I agree. You have to jump in. You can't just kind of, do a little bit here and there and think that you're going to ultimately have success. Like, anyone that I've known that's had success in the music industry has dedicated their life to it and has worked for not just 1 year, but 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years before they really see, the fruits of the labor.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you first started, you were playing, or when you first started playing bass, obviously you have a really strong work ethic. You couldn't become a full-blown, very talented bass player without it. Did you have any self-doubts, or as a young person or a young artist, did you have any self-doubts about, am I really any good, or how, am I going to be able to make this work?
I absolutely, and still to this day I do, with my Close Kicks project, even still playing bass on Strumbellas songs that we record, new demos, whatever we're doing. There's always that's there. You're always, and that kind of is part of the fire that keeps the drive going, is wondering if you've done good enough, wondering if you've pushed it to the next level and created something that people are going to be excited about. So always doubts. And I think that's, as I said, it's an important part of keeping the momentum moving forward. Because if you never doubt yourself and just think you're doing everything perfect, then, in many ways you're probably not, and you're probably not, engaging people in the way you could musically. So I really do feel that it's an important process. And still to this day with Close Kicks and Strumbellas stuff, always have doubt.
Yeah. And so it sounds like you take your doubt and use it as fuel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So as I had met a couple of your bandmates at the car rental place, it was 1:30 in the morning East Coast time, but it was like 10:30 West Coast time. So they looked really tired. Afterwards, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have engaged them in conversation, but they were standing there behind me. I'm an extrovert. So what is the road really like? Because people see you on stage, they see your name in bright lights, but I don't think that the public really understand what the road is really like. And so could you shine some light on what it's like to be a touring musician?
Absolutely. The road is not glamorous. People think that you get to travel to this city and that city and you're going through here, but the reality is that you don't have a lot of time in those cities. Like, you have to keep moving, and to stay still costs money. And particularly in the early days, you don't have a lot of money, so you need to get to the next destination, or you're driving all day. But then as you get success, more people want to see you. So more people want interviews, and they want to interact with you, and they want acoustic performances, and they want meet and greets. So, there's even less and less time that is allocated to free time. You really, when you find an hour or two on the road where you can go for a walk or a run or a hike or just a museum or something, it's kind of like it's a really special treat, because it's not often that you get to do that. So, yeah, and it's hard, not even that. It's hard to sleep because you're always moving. You're not in your same bed. Your diet's off. You're not every morning can you wake up and just make breakfast at your kitchen and with the things that you want. Sometimes you're forced to eat fast food and, whatever. So, your diet's off, your sleep's off, you're running around quickly. You have to be very careful with substance abuse or drinking or anything, because the more tired you get, the harder it is, and you don't want to start depending. I've seen other musicians where it's easy, if you drink one night, you could drink another night because you're tired and you need to feel like you got to pick yourself up the next night. So most bands that I've seen success on the road is like, you got to try to be as healthy as you can. You got to always try to rest and sleep when you can. You don't drink, you don't party. You have to, if you have a night off and an extra day off because it's a long travel day, maybe you go for some drinks with some friends or band or whatever that night, because you got an extra day to rest. But anyone that's been successful that we've seen on the road takes care of themselves and makes it a priority, because if you don't, it catches up with you fast. And I think that's something that younger bands can get themselves in trouble with, because they have a lot more energy and they're a little more free spirited, I guess. But I think for me, I was lucky. I was obviously a little older and was more conscious of that going in, and I think that's been a positive for me, being in a band, being older, and having those days already past me. But I do, for younger people going into music, like, take care of yourself and know that it's not as glamorous as you think. But if you do take care of yourselves, you will find those little moments to enjoy where you can go do those things that make you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And how does touring affect your mental health? Because that's a aspect that people don't really think about, right? It's like, oh, you're just on the road all the time, and what does that do as far as mental health goes?
It's really hard, because ultimately you're away from the people that you love, and you're also around people like your bandmates or your crew, but you're around them 24/7 all the time, and it's hard to get away because you're always in the same sort of area. If you're on a bus or in a van, it's hard to escape. So those people that you love, those people that you lean on, those people that support you are so far away that it becomes, you get anxiety, you can get depressed around that. It can be difficult, and you're not stopping to, it's very hard to build on relationships because you're always on the move. So you do meet inspiring people in situations like John and Simon met you. Those are things that happen, but it's always so quick, and then you're gone again. And, not being able to really have those meaningful conversations one-on-one with people can weigh on your mental health. And then, as I said, like, if that's weighing on you and you fall into substance abuse, that just starts to snowball the whole process and becomes very difficult. And it's, the problem with mental health is that everyone deals with it differently, and no one way is, the same. And so it's very hard, for what I can deal with on the road, maybe Simon and John can't deal with. That was always challenging for our band, being 6 people. We had 6 people to consider, and 6 people's mental health and anxieties and visions and goals. So even in that creates anxiety and stress that can lead to further depression. So it's a challenge. I think being on the road, being a musician is hard, and that's why, eating well, getting your rest, trying to exercise, are why those pieces are so important for managing your mental health. And if you let that slip, it's an industry that can really allow you to fall into some dark times.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that. I think one of the beefs I have with, I guess just the public or fans or whatnot is, oftentimes they want to be entertained first and foremost, right? And so they don't understand, the toll that what you do takes on you as an artist. Or the thing I think about a lot is like professional boxers, because they're out there, they're fighting, they're putting on a show, and a lot of people want to see a knockout. And I'm just like, well, that boxer needs to have a body and a brain that works well for his the longevity of his life. So he's just trying to protect his future. And I know that you want to be entertained, but like, these are people with futures and hopes and dreams, and it's not just about you. And I really I respect that y'all, was it the most recent tour that got canceled?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point about the boxer. There is life after the road, and you have to take care for that reason. And yeah, we did have to cancel a tour in January of I guess it would be 2020 now, kind of just before the pandemic hit. And yeah, that was Simon. His mental health had slipped. We had been on the road a lot that year with the release of our album Rattlesnake. We had radio success. We're all over North America, all over Europe, and it takes a toll. It's hard. And yeah, like, we had to put a pause on things because there is life outside of music. And, we wanted to recognize that Simon needed help and he needed time. And the difference I've always found with mental health isn't sort of like, a rash you get on your arm that goes away. Mental health is part of your life every day, all the time. And it's something, as you age, you got to learn to deal with, and you got to learn to find management strategies. And life can put you in situations where that gets extended and you don't know how to deal with it. But then you can draw it back in and hopefully fix it, and then have better strategies when you get into that position down the road. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind. Like, mental health doesn't go away. It's not a curable disease. Sure. It's a lifelong thing that people manage. And some people have bigger differences in how they feel from depression to happiness, and some people are a little more moderate. And so you have to find what works for you. And as I said, in the band, that's a challenge because there are 6 of us and we all have different needs and challenges. It's a process to figure that out with all of us. And we did get to a point where we had to support Simon, and we did. And I know we're all glad we did do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of handling your mental health, what do you do to whether it's keep your mental health healthy or relieve stress, whether it's on the road or at home? What do you do to manage your own mental health?
For me, it's kind of a combination. Obviously, getting rest is important. Exercising is extremely important for me. It really just gives me a reset. If I'm feeling anxiety or depression, I get out and exercise. I kind of feel like, oh, okay, those feelings have sort of subsided and I can kind of get back to normal a little bit. I also think just education in general, like listening to podcasts, I read books. I'm always trying to listen and find ways, listen to others, people that have been through stuff. You got to learn because, as you get older and as you experience more in your life, there can be triggers that happen between, bad relationships or, stressful, people passing or people getting sick or anything that can become a trigger. So, an educational piece is important because when you learn the triggers and you learn how to manage them, you can start to deal with them better. And sleep, diet, and exercise are always those things that always continue to come up as ways of managing, and they really are important ways to manage your mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't agree more. So in regards to, I just want to go back to making music. how long did it take you with your new, I guess you can call them solo projects, although you are collaborating with others. How long did it take you to write those two songs that was it that you just recently dropped in the past 6 months or so?
Yeah. Yeah, it's, to be honest, I started thinking about this project probably around 2016 when I started collaborating with other artists and writing my own stuff and figuring out what I wanted the name to be. So, that's kind of when it started and the early process became relevant. And then, but those songs specifically, You Made It Home, which is my recent single, I'd traveled to LA in 2018 to do some writing. And Jim Roach, who I wrote that song with, and he produced it. We wrote that song in about 3 hours. He had that guitar lick as an idea that came in, and then I top lined and put some melody to it. And then, we worked out some of the tail ends of the melody and how they were going to sit and the lyrics. And next thing you know, we had a song. It was sometimes it can happen that quickly. So that's how that was. And then strangely, The House We Built, my first single, I wrote that with Kevin Griffin, who's in the band Better Than Ezra.
Yep.
And I had intended to go to Nashville last April in 2020 to do some writing in Nashville. And I had a session with Kevin, but it obviously couldn't happen. So Kevin and I went to, an online session like this. And first time I'd met him, and same thing. But I think 3 or 4 hours in, we had written that song online, and I just connected, particularly that was my first single, but I connected with that one a lot because, The House We Built reminded me so much of kind of the band and the Strumbellas and what we had done there. And that it's more than the building. It's all about the fans and the people and the engagement and the support and the community. And that's The House You Built,
Right.
And that's, that song really meant a lot. So once I finished it, I was like, man, I think this is the one for me. I think I'm ready. Like I'm at a level where my songwriting, and also, that song specifically, I played all the instruments, I sang it all. I produced it all. And I was just like that. I was like, this feels like this is the song that should start my Close Kicks sort of career or artist movement, and was able to get that done. So it took about 8 months to get it all done and complete and to where I wanted, and then was able to release it this January, and have been super happy with the success so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's both of the songs are very uplifting and motivational, and I think during these times we all need a little more of that. So I really appreciate that. But you had said the first song, You Made It Home, you wrote it in 2018, but you released it in 2021. So as you wrote it in 3-4 hours, however long it took, why did it take so long to get out?
Well, that's a great question. When you start writing songs, and you got to determine kind of what you want to do with them. So in the early stages, I was wanting to pitch a lot of the songs for sync. Like I was hoping to get the song in a commercial or in a movie trailer. And Jim is an Emmy Award winner and has connections to TV. So, we saw that as being like, it was kind of written originally as for like a drama, like, maybe an ER drama or something like that. That's kind of what we had in mind. And at that point, I hadn't, put in any music with Close Kicks and hadn't really fully decided the vision. So, I'd sent it to my publisher and hoped for something to happen. And I continued writing. And it's one of these things when you continue writing, I've written now probably co-written close to 200 songs with artists.
Wow.
Because you're working on your skill and you're trying to get better and you're trying to collaborate. And then I'm working on my production skills and trying to sing and, trying to mix the songs now. And so you're just what I'm working towards now is what they would call 100%er in the industry, where you can write the song, you can produce it, and you can mix it. You can kind of do everything in the song creation process. And I've allowed all these co-writes to be my learning, like my schooling, as you could say, to get all of that skill set. So opposed to finding other people's songs and asking to do it or trying to get paid, I just did what I created with others and built that. And So yeah, I have a big catalog, and that was just one of the songs that was like, when I'm ready to put this out and this project together, I have this song, and it was, the timing was right when it made sense to come out, and Jim was on board, and we hadn't got any sync opportunities with it, and it made sense to be like, hey, this is a great song, like, opposed to this sitting on a hard drive at this point, why don't we put this out in the world? And that's, music is at a really unique place where it's the easiest time in history that you can actually put out music. So I'm seizing on that opportunity.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And, you said you co-written 200 songs and you've released 2. Now, how many songs do y'all as the Strumbellas write? And then how many of them make the cut? Because it's not like you drop like a 12 song album and you started with 12, right?
Yeah. The band it's interesting because Simon is, the lead writer in the band, and that's the dynamic. So he brings a lot of like early melodies to the band, and then we kind of say, oh yeah, that's a good one. And then we help, further refine the melody or the bridge or the verse and build out the lyrics and obviously the production and instrumentation. So, when it comes to Simon and voice memos and melodies, like there's thousands out there for us. Yeah. But going into a record, we generally don't have a lot more than, what we need. Like, between 9 and 11 songs we'll have kind of ready. We won't work too hard on stuff that we're not super excited about or that sort of gets weaned out in the process. Like, we might start building it and then it's like, and everyone's like, okay, let's forget about it. So we're not really one of those bands. Like, I know a lot of bands will go in with, 24 songs ready and record, as many as they can and only put 12 on the record. We really just go in with what we think's effective and put that on the record. But, we're always, the technology now has allowed the band, we're all getting better at working remotely and working on our, recording software programs and sending ideas back and forth. So, we're starting to build demos in a quicker way than we ever have. We used to jam a lot more and get together. But as we've gotten older and moved to different cities and our families grew, we had to move towards technology a little bit, and particularly with the pandemic we have. So we tend to build the songs now, within our studios, and then get together and jam them and work out what doesn't feel like there's energy or what's missing, and then go to the studio.
Okay, that's awesome. It's good to get an insider's view of the creative process. Now, as a person who has worked with people virtually and also in person, what does it take to be a good collaborator? Because teamwork makes the dream work, but you have 6 individual people coming together. And I guess I'm thinking about that scene in Bohemian Rhapsody, if you've seen the movie, where they're just fighting over the next song that's coming out and what should make the record. So what does it take to be a good collaborator online and in person?
I obviously have a lot of experience with this. You have to leave your ego at the door. You have to be open to ideas. You have to be open to everyone's ideas. You have to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And that is a reality. And, and you have to follow a structure too. Like I said in the Strumbellas, like Simon's the lead writer and we support him. And that has worked for us, and that's something that we stick to. And, in some reasons why I've gone to Close Kicks, because it allows me to be more of the lead creator and allow me to do it. Because if you get too many cooks in the kitchen, it can also get complicated as well. So, you have to realize your role, and you have to realize where you can, contribute and strategically contribute. But, the biggest take home is you got to leave your ego at the door. You got to be open to different ideas. You got to be open to try different things, because you never know. You might be stuck on one idea. And if you would have just allowed another idea to go through, it might actually make the song better and more exciting. And that's a huge part when you open those doors. And that's the same as songwriting. I don't have it in my head that I need to write a hit song the moment I meet someone. I have it in my head that this is a relationship that I want to continue to grow and evolve with and continue to, and then we'll continue to write more and more songs to get more comfortable with each other and start to push each other a little bit more. That's my goal when I write with people. It's not, hey, if we didn't write a hit song, see you later. It's more like, how can we work together over the next number of years to improve our writing relationship and hopefully then find something that creates success.
I love that. Looking at the long view. Very cool. Very cool. Now, I've asked you a lot of questions about music and stuff. I find it very interesting. I feel like there's a lot of life lessons there. And speaking of life lessons, what is a life lesson that you have learned in your, whether it's your career or just your life in general, that has really helped you to become successful?
I really think for me, it's kind of two pieces. It's, obviously your work ethic, you have to continue to work hard, and you have to be, kind and considerate to others, but also know when you need to stand up for yourself. When something's gone too far, you need to have the courage to stand up and say, hey, this doesn't feel right. And this isn't, I'm not comfortable with this, or I don't like this process. And it's a combination of those three. Like, when you're putting in the effort, people see that you're putting in the effort, so they give you respect. So hopefully that respect, results in kindness. And then, when you put in that effort and you have to stand up for yourself, people do have that respect for you that, hey, you've been here in the trenches side by side with them, doing all the hard work. They value when you do bring up a valid concern, because they see that you're there and that you're not just saying this for fun, or you're just, trying to ruffle feathers. Like, you're actually in the weeds and doing that work, and they can respect you for it. So I think the combination of the three is really keys to success.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you've had success, I imagine that you have made some mistakes on your journey. As we all have. So what's a mistake that you have made in your life that you feel like is a good life lesson for young people to just kind of learn from your mistakes? Because it's always best to learn from others and not your own, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I really, the takeaway is, I think a lot of people have this perception that you can do everything perfectly, and that you're going to, sometimes go through life with no errors. And I think that's the wrong attitude. I think it's the mistakes that give you humbleness, and then the mistakes that allow you to grow and not make the mistake again, and to get to the next level. So don't be ignorant of your mistakes, and don't be ignorant if someone calls you out on your mistakes, because they might be for a reason, and it's good to listen and good to learn from those, because it really is like, even with the songwriting world, like, a lot of the advice I get is, don't think you're going to write, a hit song in 10 songs or 20 songs. Think about it in 300 songs. You have to make those mistakes. You have to get that feedback. You have to kind of get the bad news. The melodies aren't good enough. The lyrics aren't strong enough. These things aren't to the speed that you have to get that, to know that, hey, okay, I can make improvements, and I am going to take the necessary steps, and I'm going to get more training, or I'm going to continue to write, or I'm going to continue to push myself to get to that level. So yeah, you just can't, mistakes happen, and they always do. I still every day do things that, I'm like, I have to apologize sometimes to people and be like, hey, I was absolutely wrong on that, and you were right. It is going to happen, but be humble around it, admit your mistakes, and learn from them.
You know what? And I love that I'm hearing from a rock star that you have to be humble and apologize sometimes. That's fantastic. So with that being said, there are certain guiding principles that you live by that have helped you to become successful. So what is one principle that you think has helped you along your journey in going to the top?
I think we touched on it earlier. I think staying humble and staying connected to those that support you along the journey is really an important piece of advice. Like, I got to this point by people believing in our music in the band, and over the years and years and years, I saw them coming to support us. Those are now my friends, and those are now people that I highly respect. And yeah, I think staying humbled and stay connected to your roots is important, because it's easy to sort of, as you gain success, it's easy to forget about those people. But those people were there at the beginning. Those people saw something that others didn't see. And those people supported you, when you were sending out all those songs to friends and family and no one wanted to care. And then some random stranger just, heard your music on local radio, or, somehow online, or whatever it was, and came to the show and spoke to you and bought merch and did all those things. That early support is like that's the fundamentals of how you build a business and where you start out from. So don't forget that exists. Don't forget those people, and don't forget, that's an important part of where you are today, and always have that in the back of your mind.
Absolutely. That's great. And we are coming up on time, and I want to be respectful of that. But as you've lived your life, you've probably had moments of struggling, moments of difficulty, whether it was when you were young as a teenager or maybe later on in life. What would you say to someone who is going through struggles? Because it's a real thing, and we all need some help. And so what advice would you have for someone who's just, on the struggle bus right now?
My advice would be to don't be scared to reach out to people that care for you. Don't be scared to tell them that you're struggling. Don't be scared to let them know what's going on in your life. As hard as that may sound, I think people want to help. People want to be there. People want to be there to support you. They don't want you going through what you're going through, and will go to extreme lengths to help you out. But on the same note, if you notice someone, like a friend that you see declining or something, their attitude's changing, I also think if you see someone in your life that's like that, don't be scared as the person to go to them, to go knock on their door, to ask them, to really ask them how they're doing, to really and don't give up. Because a lot of times what I've experienced with people with mental health is, they kind of close the doors and hide in the dark a little bit. And if you let them do that, they will continue to go there. And you need, as a friend, to also know that that's part of kind of the disease of mental health, that you do kind of want to hide away, and that you don't always want to see people. So it's important, if you see someone in your life as well, as much as the person with mental health, to continue to speak with people. It's hard for them sometimes. So if you see them, you got to go, and you got to try to get them engaged, or get them outside, or ask them how they're doing. And, and just don't be, listen, be more of a listener than an advisor. I think that's also a big piece I've learned, is a lot of people in mental health, they don't want to be lectured. They don't want to be reprimanded. They want to be listened to. And so, you got to put on your, get those listening, have your ears as a listening piece, and like you're listening to a good album, listen to what your friends or someone that's struggling, listen to them. And sometimes you don't even need to respond. You just need to listen.
Yeah. And I need to hear that, because I'm a fixer. And when people tell me their problems, I try to solve them. And that's not always the right thing to do, right?
Absolutely. That is my experience too. I was very much the same as you. And as I've, experienced more friends go through it and gotten older, what you realize is that actually they just want someone to listen to them, and they don't need any more advice. It's kind of, everyone's trying to give them advice. They just need a shoulder to lean on. So it's important to recognize that.
And, I just want to give you space to say anything you feel like you haven't said in the interview. Is there anything that you just a message that you want to convey to the young people out there that maybe I haven't kind of helped coax out of you with my questions?
I just think, obviously, as you grow up and you're experiencing, love and opportunity and all of these emotions that you go through, I think it's just important to, if you really want to follow your dreams and your goals and your vision, is, as I mentioned throughout, just to stay humble, to work hard, to listen to others, and to take their advice. And if you can do those 3 or 4 little things, really anything's possible. It really, some people think a lot of the success and the star, like rock star, it happens overnight. And I know there's like a small fraction of people that happens to, whether it be through social media or you win the lottery or whatever. But the more and more people I speak to, the more people that have gotten to that level, it's all through hard work. It's all through being humble. It's all through being kind. It's all through listening. I've met some of the biggest stars in the world, and they are so kind, so humble, so thoughtful. And that really like helped me. As I saw, I was like, oh man, like these people are way bigger than I am. I'm starstruck to see them, and they were just like the nicest, kindest, thoughtful, asked me questions about my life, my family, my kids. And you're like, whoa, geez, like this is incredible. So, as far as you get, as far as you go, like those fundamentals always stay the same, and always keep that in the forefront as you work through love and work and business and following your dreams. You got to follow that.
Sure, absolutely. That's a fantastic thing to end on. Real quick before we end, I do like to end each one of these interviews that I have with a little bit of freestyle rapping, just to summarize and talk about what we talked about. So here we go. Let's see here. All right, here we go. Can you hear that?
I can't.
All right. Straight up, it's a gift. I'm talking close kicks. The dude got skills on the basic car. He came through at the age of 30, and he just kept working, kept putting it in. He was a young fella with the Strumbellas, talking about things that they need to share. A whole bunch of spirits, throw it in the lyrics, and that's what I say. You gotta stay humble so you could go through. This life is a jungle. You gotta come through and take care of yourself, your mental health. That's what I'm saying. A whole bunch of sleep, and also good diet and some exercise, and that's how you come through. And just be wise on the road. It's not glamorous, but you gotta jam it up when you keep on going. Words that I'm throwing, my dude right here, talk about a whole bunch of hard work. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He puts it in a whole bunch of songs, play all day long. You gotta come with passion. You just gotta ask yourself how you gonna do it. Just by going with the things in your heart, create a bunch of art. And that's what I say. Yo, he just sharp a whole bunch of kindness, a whole bunch of reminders that we gotta come through. Just share love and look for our people that are just struggling up on a bus. Yo, you gotta trust yourself with the art, and just understand you might have doubts, but no freaking doubt. You gotta come through and use that as fuel. Don't be a fool. Come through and rule your own life by just creating collaboration. That's what I'm saying. My dude right there put his ego at the door, and that's for sure how he comes through and makes a bunch of things with his bandmates. Something just great that he just creates. That's what I'm saying. Drop a bunch of knowledge, and that's what I'm saying. Yo, he's a scholar with a bunch of thoughts that he just drops for the young people. And there is no sequel to this life, so you gotta keep going and live it really right. That's what I'm saying when I'm here up on the mic. Talk about Darryl. He is just dope. He is like a pharaoh. Drop a bunch of gold, and that's how he rolls. And that's what I say when I just go straight off the top, create something hot. And that's what I say with these words that I drop, spit off the top. And that's how I go, and that's what I said with a freestyle flow.
Hell yeah, that was amazing, man. That was so good.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. I am so stoked about this, Darryl. I am, you know what, you are absolutely a role model to me, man. I hope that I can continue to, or I can give out the love and the positive energy that you are doing with your life, man. I'm stoked about this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, man. That means the world to me. I really do appreciate you saying that. And honestly, man, seeing what you've done and what you're doing inspires me too. So thank you for doing what you do as well. It's an honor to be here and honor to be on the show. And I can't wait to see what you do next and what happens next in your life.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Darryl. So before we go, we got to help the people connect with you online. So how can people find you on the internet?
Well, obviously, I'm always posting with the Strumbellas on social media, so you can find us, Facebook and Twitter and TikTok now is obviously a big one. And then same, Close Kicks. I'm all in all the platforms as well, and Spotify and the streaming sites. And I hope to have a new EP or at least 4 more songs released with Close Kicks later this summer. Strumbellas are working on new music as we speak. So it's just social media is the spot to find me, and I hope people can also find me on this podcast. I'm excited to be on it. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll make sure to tag all your handles so people can't mess up, the names.
Yeah, exactly. And same for you. Like, make sure I'm happy to share it on all my socials as much as when it's ready and good to go. I'll be ready to share it as much as I can.
I appreciate that. All right, Darryl. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm so ecstatic about this. And, man, thanks for being a positive force in this world.
Thank you. And thank you for doing what you're doing, and stick with it, man, and stay in touch. Honestly, you got my email. I'd love to stay in touch, and let's see what the future brings.
Absolutely. All right. Well, have a great day, man.
All right. You too, man. We'll chat soon.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks. All right. So that was the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot from it. And if you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to hit the follow button so you don't miss future episodes. If you know somebody who needs to hear the good stuff in this episode, especially the part that deals with reaching out to friends who are dealing with mental health issues, please make sure to share it with them. And please make sure to take care of yourself and your mental health. All right, so that's all I got for this time. Until next time, peace. All right, so that's the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed that throwback. I hope you got a lot out of it. And I hope you check out the Strumbellas music and upcoming shows. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the follow button so you don't miss future episodes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or via social media. This is Your One Life. I'm Kim Young Kim. I hope you have a great day, a great week, and until next time, peace!